Buddha Prinayan Eva Bharatya Vidura Pratyabhasata Shri Shukuvacha Evam Bruvanam Maitreyam Dvaipayana Suto Buddha Prinayan Eva Bharatya Vidura Pratyabhasata Shri Shukuvacha Evam Bruvanam Maitreyam Dvaipayana Sato Buddha Prinayan Eva Bharatya Vidura Pratyabhashata. Everyone can chant, please. Anyone?
Shri Sukha Uvacha Evam Bhuvanam Maitreyam Dvaipayana Suto Buddha Prinayan Eva Bharatya Vidura Pratyabhashata. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Shri Sukha Uvacha Evam Purvanam Maitreyam Dvaipayan Suto Buddha Priniyan Eva Bharataya Viduraha Pratyabhashata. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Shri Sukha Uvacha Evam Bruvana Maitreyan Dvaipayana Suto Buddha Prinayanniva Bharatya Vidura Pratyabhashata.
Okay, word for word translation. Shri Shuka Uvacha, Shri Shukadev Goswami said, Evam, thus, Bruvanam, speaking, Maitreyam, unto the sage Maitreya, Dvaipayana Sutta, the son of Dvaipayana, Buddha, learned, Prinayan, in a pleasing manner, Eva, as it was, Bharatya, in the manner of a request, Vidura, Pratyabhashata, expressed. Translation: Sri Shukadev Goswami said, O king, while Maitreya, the great sage, was thus speaking, Vidura, the learned son of Dvaipayana Vyas, expressed a request in a pleasing manner by asking this question. This text has no purport, so I'll read the verse translation and purport of the next verse, text 2. Vidura uvacha brahman katam bhagavatash chinmatrasya vikarinaha lilaya chapiyujeran nirgunasya gunakriya. Vidura uvacha, Vidura said, Brahman, O Brahmana, Katam, how? Bhagavata, of the personality of Godhead, Chitmatrasya, of the complete spiritual whole, Avikarina, of the unchangeable, Lilaya, by his pastime, Cha, either, Api, even though it is so, Yujeran, taking place, Nirgunasya, who is without the modes of nature, Guna, modes of nature, Kriya, activities. Translation: Sri Vidura said, O great Brahmana, since the personality of Godhead is the complete spiritual whole and is unchangeable, how is he connected with the material modes of nature and their activities? If this is his pastime, how do the activities of the unchangeable take place and exhibit qualities without the modes of nature? Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. As described in the previous chapter, the difference between the Supersoul, the Supreme Lord, and the living entities is that the activities of the Lord in creating the cosmic manifestation are performed by the Lord through the agency of His multifarious energies. But this manifestation is bewildering to the living entities. The Lord is therefore the master of the energies, whereas the living entities are subjugated by them. By asking various questions about transcendental activities, Vidura is clearing the misconception that when the Lord either descends to the earth in his incarnation or appears himself with all his potencies, he too is subjected to the influences of Maya, just like an ordinary living entity. This is generally the calculation of less intelligent philosophers who consider the position of the Lord and that of the living entities to be on the same level. Vidura is hearing the great sage Maitreya refute these arguments. The Lord is described in this verse as Chinmatra, or completely spiritual. The personality of Godhead has unlimited potencies to create and manifest many wonderful things, both temporary and permanent. Because this material world is the creation of his energy, it thus appears to be temporary. It is manifested at certain intervals, maintained for some time, and again dissolved and conserved in his own energy. As described in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, text 19, Bhutva praliyate. But the creation of his internal potency, the spiritual world, is not a temporary manifestation like the material world, but is eternal and full of transcendental knowledge, opulence, energy, strength, beauties, and glories. Such manifestations of the Lord's potencies are eternal and are therefore called nirguna, or free from all tinges of the modes of material nature, even up to the mode of material goodness. The spiritual world is transcendental even to material goodness, and thus is unchangeable. Since the Supreme Lord of such eternal and unchangeable qualities is never subjugated by anything like material influence, how can his activities and form be conceived to be under the influence of illusory Maya, as is the case with the living entities? A juggler or magician displays many wonders with his acts and arts. He can become a cow by his magical tactics, and yet he is not that cow. But at the same time, the cow displayed by the magician is not different from him. Similarly, the material potency is not different from the Lord because it is an emanation from him. But at the same time, that manifestation of potency is not the Supreme Lord. The Lord's transcendental knowledge and potency always remain the same. They do not change, even when displayed in the material world. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord descends to the earth by his own internal potency, and therefore there is no question of his becoming materially contaminated, changed, or otherwise affected by the modes of material nature. The Lord is saguna by his own internal potency, but at the same time he is nirguna, since he is not in touch with the material energy. The restrictions of the prison house are applicable to prisoners who are condemned by the king's law, but the king is never affected by such implications. Although he may visit the prison house out of his good will, in the Vishnu Purana, the 6 opulences of the Lord are stated to be non-different from him. The opulences of transcendental knowledge, strength, opulence, potency, beauty, and renunciation are all identical with the personality of Godhead. When he personally displays such opulences in the material world, they have no connection with the modes of material nature. The very word chinmatratva is the guarantee that the Lord's activities are always transcendental, even when displayed in the material world. His activities are as good as the Supreme Personality himself. Otherwise, liberated devotees like Shukadev Goswami would not have been attracted by them. Vidura inquired how the Lord's activities can be in the modes of material nature, as is sometimes miscalculated by persons with a poor fund of knowledge. The inebriety of the material qualities is due to the difference between the material body and the spirit soul. The conditioned soul's activities are displayed through the medium of the modes of material nature and are therefore perverted in appearance. However, the Lord's body and the Lord himself are one and the same. And when the Lord's activities are displayed, they are certainly non-different from the Lord in all respects. The conclusion is that persons who consider the Lord's activities material are certainly mistaken. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatade Shatarine Shri Shuka Uvacha Evam Bruvana Maitreyam Dvaipayana Siddho Buddha Prinayan Eva Bharatya Vidura Pratyabhashata. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, O king, while Maitreya, the great sage, was thus speaking, Vidura, the learned son of Dvaipayana Vyas, expressed a request in a pleasing manner by asking this question. Vidura uvacha brahman katam bhagavatas chinmatrasya vikarina lilaya chapiyujyeran nirgunasya gunakriya. Sri Vidura said, O great Brahmana, since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the complete spiritual whole and is unchangeable, how is he connected with the material modes of nature and their activities? If this is his pastime, how do the activities of the unchangeable take place and exhibit qualities without the modes of nature? Let's see now. Very interesting couple of verses, starting a new chapter of these amazing discussions between Vidura and Maitreya. Vidura is asking these questions in a very pleasing way, the verse says, and Maitreya is also very pleased and in ecstasy to receive these questions. In that first verse, some interesting things. I wanted to spend some time talking about Maitreya himself today, before we briefly touch on the question he poses in text 2. Briefly, because the question is going to be expanded and answered over quite a few verses. So rather than spend the whole time on it, we'll just touch on it. So Vidura is described as Dvaipayana Sutta Buddha. Dvaipayana is Vyasadeva, because he was conceived and born on a dvipa, on an island, by his father, Parashara Muni, and his mother, Satyavati. Therefore, he known as Dvaipayana, who was conceived and born on a dvipa, on an island. So he's the son. So Vidura is the son of him. We know that story from the Mahabharata, how the 3 co-wives, their husband died. So Vyasadeva came, or the 2 co-wives, was it? So Vyasadeva came and impregnated them, as well as one of the maidservants. So Vyasadeva, Dvaipayana, is the father of Vidura. So he's Dvaipayana Sutta Buddha, and he's the most intelligent person. Vidura, he's the son of Vyasadeva and the most intelligent person and the most intelligent son of Vyasadeva. Now, if we go earlier in the 3rd canto, when Vidura is being criticized by Duryodhana, Duryodhana calls him Jimam Dasya Sutta. Today he's Dvaipayana Sutta Buddha, the most intelligent son of Vyasadeva, but the envious, evil-minded Duryodhana called him Jimam Dasya Sutta, which means crooked son of a dasi, of a maidservant. So crooked son of a maidservant, I don't want to read too much into it, but it seems roughly equivalent to, like in English, pardon my French here, but when people call someone a son of a bitch, that's almost what he's saying here, that you're the crooked, dirty son of a maidservant. So Duryodhana was so critical, taking this horrible, envious vision. And Shukadev is so praiseworthy. You're the son of the great sage and the most intelligent. And when the words of Duryodhana entered Vidura's ears, they're described as karna banai, like they were like arrows entering into his ear and piercing his heart within, so much so that he left home from that. So, and Shukadev should know, because Shukadev is also Dvaipayana Sutta. So he's also the son of Vyasadeva, and Vidura is also the son of Vyasadeva. So they're actually, what would you say? I guess half brothers. So they understand each other as Dvaipayana Sutta. So this is how great Vidura is. And the position of Maitreya is also amazing. What an amazing sage he is. He's a disciple of Parashara Muni. In the purport of text 2, Prabhupada mentions the Vishnu Purana and the description of Lord Krishna's opulences. Those are the words of Parashara Muni. And just like the context of Bhagavad Gita is that Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. And the context of Srimad Bhagavatam is that Shukadev is speaking to Parikshit. And the context of Vishnu Purana is that Parashara Muni is speaking to his disciple, Maitreya. So Maitreya is the topmost disciple of the great Parashara Muni, and Vyasadeva is the son of Parashara Muni. So that means, practically speaking, they're also like brothers, because the disciple is just like the son and the disciple are almost the same thing. A couple of times, Prabhupada would be quoting the Guru Puja prayer, Chakudana Dilo Jay Janme Janme Prabhu say, that the spiritual master has given me the eyesight to see. He's opened my eyes. And Janme Janme Prabhu say, he is my master birth after birth. But at least a couple of times, Prabhupada, when he spoke that verse, he said, Janme Janme Pita say, that the spiritual master is the father of the disciple, birth after birth. So Maitreya and Vyas are also practically just like brothers. That means Maitreya is like the uncle of Vidura, which is also one of the reasons we know Uddhava didn't speak. Uddhava chose not to speak and let Maitreya speak, because Maitreya is senior, but not just senior, but because he has this very specific relationship with Vidura that he's practically like an uncle. So this is how amazing that this Maitreya is, Maitreya Muni, as a great sage. And I've said before, and we've all heard before, how so much of the Bhagavatam is these talks between Maitreya and Vidura. The entire third and fourth canto is nothing but Maitreya and Vidura speaking. So how great and how qualified. And we see here what happens when you have a qualified disciple and a qualified spiritual master. Then the exchanges between them produce such amazing nectar and knowledge and realization and devotion when both the spiritual master and the disciple are qualified. If the disciple is not qualified, but the spiritual master is qualified, then the spiritual master has to do a lot of work, as Prabhupada did, just to make the disciple qualified as a basic qualified disciple. Okay, don't eat meat, don't engage in illicit sex, don't take intoxication, don't take gambling, chant at least 16 rounds a day. And then when the disciple becomes qualified, then the real exchange of nectar can happen. Or if this disciple is sincere and qualified, but he somehow or other approaches an unqualified person as spiritual master, then he's simply led astray. Andaya tandar upagyamanad. No, that's not, is it? What's the verse? The blind leading the blind fall into a ditch. From Prahlad Maharaj, is it? Anyway, I can't remember the whole verse right now. But and if both of them are unqualified, the disciple and the spiritual master are unqualified, then both of them just go to hell. Both of them will become degraded. But here, such a qualified Vidura, the most intelligent son of Vyasadeva, and Maitreya, the most intelligent and qualified friend of Vyasadeva and disciple of Vyasadev's father. So how qualified, and therefore we get this amazing nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is what happens when qualified devotees meet and inquire and discuss Krishna with each other. Then there's the question of Maitreya. Is Maitreya a, quote unquote, I'm doing the air quotes, pure devotee? Prabhupada in the 4th chapter of this canto, he says, Maitreya is a great sage and a learned scholar philosopher, but not a pure devotee of the Lord. And therefore his meeting with the Lord at that time meaning when the Lord instructed Uddhava near the end of his pastimes, therefore his meeting with the Lord at that time may have been due to a Gyata Sukriti or some unknown devotional service. So here Prabhupada is saying that he's not a pure devotee. It doesn't mean he's not a devotee. It doesn't mean he's not a great devotee. What it means in this context is that he has a little fixation on jnana, on knowledge. And he's a sage after all. So he's a devotee and a great devotee, but he's also, as a sage, he's concerned with jnana. And the pure devotee, the absolute pure devotee, in the context of Srila Rupa Goswami's verse, is that he has no mixture of jnana. So he has a little mixture of jnana. So therefore, we could say, oh, he's not a pure devotee. But then in the verse right after that, in the 10th verse of the 4th chapter, Prabhupada then says, it appears that when the Lord informed him by his indication to Uddhava, the great sage Maitreya finally became aware of the importance of entering into the association of the Lord. So maybe at some point he was not a pure devotee in that sense, but here's the indication that he's making advancement, understanding the need for the association with the Lord. Then we're in the 7th chapter now. In the next chapter, the 8th chapter of this canto, sorry, let me just check the time, okay? In the next chapter, the 8th chapter of this canto, Maitreya is glorifying Vidura. And he glorifies Vidura like this. He says, first he glorifies him because he's Puru Vamsa, because he's appeared in this amazing Puru dynasty, which is all great Rajarshis and saints and saintly kings and amazing devotees in the Puru dynasty. And why are they so great? What's so great about them? Is it their fighting skill? Is it their wealth? Is it their political management? They may have had those, but the real reason that the Puru Vamsa is so glorified because they're all Bhagavat Pradhan. Bhagavat Pradhan means, for them, Bhagavan is Pradhan, is the main thing. Bhagavan is the chief object of all of their love and worship. This is how Maitreya is glorifying Vidura. So that means Maitreya understands what it means to be a pure devotee, that all of one's love is completely devoted to Krishna, to Bhagavan. They're Bhagavat Pradhan. Just like in the 26 qualities of a devotee, for example, there are so many qualities. Just like the Purus have so many qualities, being strong, being great warriors, being great politicians. So in the 26 qualities of a devotee, one could be clean, one could be merciful, one can be poetic. But all of these are secondary qualities. The one quality, you could say the Bhagavat Pradhan quality, is I'm trying to remember the Sanskrit. Krishnaika Sharanam. Krishnaika Sharanam means Bhagavat Pradhan, that Krishna Eka Sharanam. One's love and devotion is surrender is exclusively focused on Krishna. and not diverted to anything else. And in the Bhagavatam, in the pastimes of Bhishma's passing, Prabhupada quotes Bhishma Dev himself, who said that love means focusing all of your love on one person and not diverting it to anything else. And Queen Kunti prays, Gange Vogam Adanvati, let my love flow to you like the Ganges flows to the ocean, which never gets diverted. It doesn't go off into other rivers or other branches. It just flows straight to the river. So that means Maitreya is understanding this, or at least appreciating this, that he understands what it means to be a great devotee, to be a pure devotee of Krishna. He said that the Purus are Bhagavat Pradhan. He didn't say they're Jnana Pradhan, although he was apparently having some interest in Jnana. So this is Maitreya. He's a great, whatever he may be, he's a great, great devotee and so qualified that he's speaking a significant portion of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And if we call him not a pure devotee, then there are also many other not pure devotees. Bhagavad Gita says, Chatur Vida Bhajante Mam Jana Sukritin, that there are 4 types of persons who worship Krishna, and all of them are pious. Arto Jigyasur Artarti, Gyani Cha Bharatarshava. Those who are in distress, those who are inquisitive, those who want wealth, and those who have knowledge, the Gyanis. And in Baladev Vidyabhushan's commentary on that Bhagavad Gita verse, and Prabhupada also echoes it in several places, although not in that, I'm not sure if he does in his purport there. He says that Arta refers to Gajendra. Gajendra was in distress, therefore he approached Krishna. Jigyasu, those who are inquisitive, refers to Shonaka Rishi, who is inquisitive, therefore that he and all the sages inquired from Sutta Goswami. Artarti, those who want great wealth, is exemplified by Dhruva Maharaj, who wanted not just wealth, but he wanted a great kingdom, a kingdom greater than Lord Brahma's. So he really wanted wealth. And the Jnani is exemplified by Shukadev Goswami himself. And also in other places, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Prabhupada also give the 4 Kumaras as example of these Jnanis. And what is it said about these 4 types of persons? This is from 716 from the purport. Let's see. These persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service under different conditions. These are not pure devotees because they have some aspiration to fulfill in exchange for devotional service. Pure devotional service is without aspiration and without desire for material profit. And then he quotes Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Anyabhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Gyanavritam, Anukulena Krishna Anushilanam Bhaktir Uttamam. So Gajendra, here labeled not a pure devotee. Shonaka Rishi, not a pure devotee. Dhruva Maharaj, not a pure devotee. Shukadev Goswami, not a pure devotee, according to this definition. But the point is they started like that, and Prabhupada, let me see if I could also find it. When these 4 kinds of persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service and are completely purified by the association of a pure devotee, they also become pure devotees. So even if we say, okay, Gajendra wasn't pure, then he became pure, or Shonaka, or Dhruva, or Shukadev, or the 4 Kumars, or Maitreya himself, even if he had some jnana, but he heard from the Lord directly. He associated with the great devotees, Uddhava, the topmost devotee outside of Vrindavan, and Vidura, the most intelligent son of his godbrother Vyasadeva. He associated with them. So we understand that a devotee grows. What's the Prabhupada described the philosophy, the bogus philosophy of Nagna Matrika Nyaya. Nagna Matrika Nyaya means the philosophy that, oh, your mother, when she was a little infant used to run around naked, therefore she should run around naked now. This is the false logic. So similarly, okay, Gajendra, Dhruva, whoever, they approached the Lord for some material desires, but they became so purified that now these persons are all great Mahajans. So a devotee grows, and I choose to look at Maitreya in that same way. That perhaps he was a jnani, he was a sage, he had this interest, but so much intimate devotional service. So if we continue looking at Bhagavad Gita, after that verse about the 4 types of pious persons, the next verse says, of these, the wise one who is in full knowledge, that means the jnani, who in union with me through pure devotional service is the best, for I am very dear to him, and he is dear to me. Next verse, text 18. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider verily to dwell in me, being engaged in my transcendental service, he attains me. So all of these chatur vida bhajante mam, who come with some ulterior motive, if they take to devotional service, and specifically Prabhupada says, if they associate with pure devotees, then they could be elevated to the position of pure devotees. And in the process of that elevation, Krishna himself is saying that of these 4 types, the best is the jnani. That means the jnani of the not pure devotees, the jnani is like right at the border, right at the inflection point between not pure and pure devotees. And they could very easily come to pure devotional service, like Shukadev Goswami, like the 4 Kumaras. They were so close. They were such great jnanis, but they needed something, and all they needed was the aroma of the tulsi on Krishna's lotus feet, and boom, they were over the line into pure devotional service. So Maitreya also went through so much that we can understand his great qualification. I can't look into Maitreya's mind. I'm a little bit speculating to a degree here, but we can understand that he was an amazing, great, important personality. In fact, later on in this chapter, when after Vidura asks his question, Shukadev Goswami says that Maitreya could answer the questions perfectly because he was Bhagavata Chitta. Those are the exact words Shukadev Goswami uses. Bhagavata Chitta. Bhagavata means the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Chitta means his mind, his consciousness. So he's fully absorbed in Bhagavata Chitta. His mind was, in other words, he was fully Krishna conscious. Now, if we're talking about someone else, and we say that person is absorbed in Krishna, you say, oh, his mind is Bhagavata Chitta. He's Bhagavata Chitta. But if Krishna is talking about that person, he's going to say it in first person. What's he going to say? Matchitta, right? We say his consciousness is absorbed in Krishna, and Krishna will say Matchitta, his mind is absorbed in me. Therefore, we have Madchitta, Madgata Prana, Bodhayanta Parasparam. So Shukadev saying that Maitreya is Bhagavat Chitta means that he is one of these. Madchitta, Madgata Prana, Bodhayanta Parasparam. Katayantas chamam nityam tushyanti charamante cha. That Madchitta, that his mind and consciousness is fully absorbed in Krishna. Madgata Prana, Krishna is the goal of his life. He's Bhagavat Pradhan, same thing. Krishna is the primary thing in his life. Katayantas chamam nityam, and he's taking such amazing pleasure in answering and questioning about Krishna, which is why he's speaking in 2 full cantos of the Bhagavatam. Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. And this is his full pleasure and full satisfaction. So we can understand from this, Maitreya, Vidura is the most qualified disciple, and Maitreya is the most qualified guru and speaker, and therefore we get this amazing Srimad Bhagavatam. Next, I'm going to tell a little story about Maitreya. This is from the Mahabharata, from the Vanaparva. This is while the Pandavas were in exile in the forest, and Vyasadeva was visiting his son Dhritarashtra. And he's speaking to Dhritarashtra, and he tells him an old Puranic story illustrating that how important it is to have a good son. And Dhritarashtra was very sinful and very corrupted and very weak-minded in some ways, but he wasn't stupid. So he understood what Vyasadeva was trying to tell him. And he said, yes, I know. My son Duryodhana is a very sinful rascal. What he did in the gambling match was terrible and sinful and the most detestable thing to do. By his activities, I know that he's destroying himself and his dynasty, but I'm not able to correct him, or I'm not willing to correct him. So we asked Vyasadeva, could you correct him for me? Could you instruct him? And Vyasadeva said no. He said no. I'm speculating here that he was like, no thanks, I don't want to touch that one. But he says, he said to Dhritarashtra, you have 101 sons. Pandu only has 5 sons, and those 5 sons had suffered so much. You have to think of them just like your sons and embrace them. If you want your dynasty to thrive and survive, you have to embrace them. And I will not, Dhritarashtra says, yes, I know. Bhishma and Drona and Vidura all told me this. So won't you please preach to them? Preach to Duryodhana and correct him for me. So again, Vyasa refuses, but he says, but you know what? The great sage Maitreya, my great friend, and the great sage Maitreya has just been visiting the Pandavas in their exile in the Kurujangala province. And he's almost due. He's going to be here. He's just now coming here to visit. After visiting them, let him come and he'll instruct Duryodhana. And if Duryodhana listens to him, he will be blessed. And if he rejects the words of Maitreya, Duryodhana will be cursed. So Maitreya comes, and he's welcomed very nicely by everyone in the proper official way. Great sage comes, and he starts telling how he was just visiting the Pandavas in exile. And he says that the Pandavas are effulgence, just like demigods on this earth, and they're worshipped and respected everywhere they go. And especially Bhishma is so strong and so powerful. And he starts describing how he killed the Hidimba demon and how he killed the Kirmira demon, Rakshasa, and he's doing this amazing thing and this strength and that strength. And we know Duryodhana hates Bhim. So he wasn't very, very happy to hear this. And then he explains to Duryodhana, you need to make friends with these your brothers. If you do, your dynasty will be so powerful and so glorious and so successful in every way. But if you don't do this, then it will simply result in your destruction. So Duryodhana, he's so rude. He slaps his thigh. I don't understand the entire context, but in Vedic culture, this exposing your thigh, slapping your thigh, like this is extremely, extremely disrespectful behavior. So he slaps his thigh, he laughs, he sort of gives the crooked sidelong glances to Maitreya after receiving this instruction for him, and he didn't say a word. He didn't say a word, that's all he did. And Maitreya became extremely angry. He touched water. I don't know all the rituals of how a Brahmana does a curse, but part of it is touching water. He touched water and he curses Duryodhana. He says, you are going to reap the fruit of your offenses. You slapped your thigh in response to my sincere, gentle preaching to you. The time will come when Bhishma will come attack you and he will smash your thigh. And you and all of your brothers and all of your dynasty will be completely destroyed and demolished by Bhishma and the Pandavas. So he actually cursed him like this. And Dhritarashtra said, oh, please, it's my son, you cursed him so severely. How can this curse be averted? And we see many times in the Mahabharata and in Vedic literature, someone gets cursed. And when they're cursed, then they say, oh, please, can you reverse the curse? Can you? And many times the sages are so angry, they'll say, no, this curse cannot be reversed. So Dhritarashtra says, please, Maitreya Muni, please, can you reverse this curse? But Maitreya, because he's such a great soul, such a great devotee, he says, oh, it's very easy to reverse this curse. All he has to do is make peace with the Pandavas and the curse will vanish. But if he doesn't do that, there's nothing I could do. So Duryodhana then went away at that time, walked away at that time, appearing very haughty and making a show of fearlessness. But inside he was terrified, quaking with fear after hearing the curse of Maitreya, and especially after hearing of the prowess of Bhima. So we know, Prabhupada has said several times, that the whole Mahabharata battle was fought because of the insulting of Draupadi in the Asat Sabha, in the uncivilized gathering in the core of a court. The whole battle happened because of that. And because he exposed his thigh, therefore Bhima vowed that I'm going to smash your thigh. And he smashed his thigh with his club after the Battle of Kurukshetra. So Duryodhana was already cursed by his insults to Draupadi, by his rejecting of Krishna, by his hatred of the Pandavas, by his offenses against specifically Bhima. He was already cursed, but Maitreya came and he made it official that you are cursed. You will be destroyed. I'm a Brahmana. My words have Brahmana's words cannot be proven false. You will be destroyed. Your thigh will be smashed by Bhima. It wasn't necessary. It was actually going to happen already just by his bad activities. But Maitreya was the official, like the official deliverer of this curse, of these words, of this fate of Duryodhana. So this is how amazing this Maitreya Muni is. Such a powerful person and a great devotee. Pure devotee, not pure devotee, I don't know, but what an amazing devotee. And by hearing from him, we will, whatever he may be, we hear from him his discussions with Vidura, and we'll cultivate pure devotional service by that. Otherwise, Shukadev would not have chosen to include this, and Vyasadeva would have not chosen to include this in his Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the amazing Maitreya Muni and the amazing talks with his disciple Vidura. Now we could briefly now look at the second verse. Vidura is asking a question, almost an objection, that let me call that verse up again quickly, just to for the sake of discussing it. Let's see. The Supreme Personality is the complete spiritual whole and is unchangeable. How is he connected with the material modes of nature and their activities? If this is his pastime, how do the activities of the unchangeable take place and exhibit qualities without the modes of nature? Excuse me. So this is an interesting question, and even a challenging question. We've been hearing in the previous chapters how all of the Maya, all of the material energy through the Mahatattva and the false ego and the transitions of the different modes of goodness and the time factor, how all of the material energy has sprung up from that. So if Krishna is Chit Matrasya, if he's the complete pure spiritual whole, is he connected? How is he connected with these material modes? How are his activities in this world going on? He seems to be interacting with matter and the modes of nature, yet at the same time he's Chit Matra. So how is that happening? He is also, let's see now, above to the Sanskrit. He is Chit Matrasya, he's complete spiritual whole. So how is it that he's interacting with matter? He's avikarina. He's unchangeable. So how is it that he's assuming different forms, different pastimes, going to different places, different avatars, different activities? How is this happening if he's unchangeable? It seems contradictory. Leelaya, is it his pastime? Is he forced into it? Is it his choice? How is it happening? He's nirgunasya, yet his activities seem like guna kriya, like activities within the modes of material nature. So this is an important question and a brilliant question. And it's not presented in a challenging way. Rather, text one says it was presented in a pleasing way. But there is a certain challenge inherent in the question that, oh, is Krishna transcendental or is he not? So this is important. To ask a good question is such a piercing question, even a challenging question, if sincerely done, is such an important thing. Prabhupada was lecturing in Boston. I can't remember if it was BU or Harvard somewhere. And someone asked some question at the end at the school program. And it was a question something about, oh, that old trope that, oh, isn't it just like, we're just like rivers enter into the sea and then they merge into the ocean. So don't we merge into God? And at the end, when the thing was over, Prabhupada said, no one even knows how to ask good questions anymore. They just bring up these same old hackneyed ideas. So asking a good question, like I said, there has to be a qualified disciple and a qualified spiritual master. And a qualified disciple, sometimes he doesn't question, he just sits and hears and absorbs it. Prabhupada also said about himself with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta that I didn't ask questions, I just heard. He said, even I didn't understand what he was saying, but I just heard. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta also commented later, I have marked him, he likes to hear. But then he could also ask questions, and a good disciple also has to know how to ask questions, as also described in Bhagavad Gita, pariprashnena sevaya, serious questions and serious service both have to be there. So this is such a question. How is the Lord transcendental yet also seemingly engaged in transformation and changes and activities? And Prabhupada explains in the purport, and it'll be discussed a lot over the coming verses. I just wanted to very quickly look at one angle of this. And this is, let's see, some of you may remember, actually it's almost 2 years ago now, I remember His Grace Vishnu Gadaprabhu, we were doing Bhagavad Gita verses for the Sunday feast. And in one of those verses, he discussed these two competing philosophies, the Parinamvad and the Vivartavad. And this distinction explains how the transcendental Lord can have activities and transformations and variety. Vivartavad is the philosophy of the Mayavadis. And Vivartavad means that all of the changes and variety and all of the appearance of different energies of the Supreme are all illusion. They're all Maya. That's what Vivartavad means. And when we call these impersonalist Mayavadis, Mayavadi is just a slang way of saying a follower of Vivartavad, or this doctrine of illusion. So this is Vivartavad, that Brahman has no energies, has no transformations, and if there appears to be any, it's simply illusion, it's Maya, which is not an explanation at all. And if you actually think about it, it's not, because it's there. You may say it's illusion, but it's there, and every single being sees it and experiences it. You can't just write it off artificially, oh, say it's not real. So it's not a real answer. The actual philosophy is Parinamvad. Parinam means the transformation of the energies, that the Supreme Lord is completely transcendental, chit matrasya. He's completely transcendental, but he has energies, and through the transformations of these energies, he accomplishes everything. In this way, his activities, his Leela, his incarnations, and indeed the entire material creation is explained and justified, yet at the same time, Krishna's absolute transcendence, his chit matrasya, his nira, what was the word? Nira karita, his unchanging nature, is at the same time preserved, because as Prabhupada would often say, Shakti Matayor Abeda, that the energy and the energetic source are one, actually simultaneously one and different. The sunlight comes in our window and the sunlight changes. We could block it, we can absorb it on a solar panel, we can use it to heat water. So it's changing, but the sun itself is unaffected. So in the same way, Krishna, the proper understanding is that Krishna is undertaking everything through his material and spiritual energies. Vishnu Shakti Praprokta, Kshetra Gyakya Tatapara, Avidya Karma Samyamya, Tritiya Shakti Ishate, that he has his internal potency, he has his marginal potency, which is all we living entities, and he has his material energy. These are all energies of the Lord. Krishna remains pure and one, but his energies transform. And the perfect one-verse explanation of this is in the Svetasvatara Upanishad. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyate, natat samas cha vyadikashya jishyate, parasya shaktir vividaiva shruvyate, swabhaviki jnana bala kriyacha. Natasya karyam, the Supreme Personality of God, has nothing to do. He has no work that is imposed on him. Karanam cha vidyate, yet he accomplishes everything. Not tat samash. There is nobody equal to him. Chabyadi kash. There is no one superior to him. Chajashyate. We don't see anyone like that. We don't see anyone equal to him. We don't see anyone greater than him. He has nothing to do, but he is the doer of everything. He's greater than anyone and everyone. So how does he accomplish everything? Not tatsya karyam karanam chavidyate. He has no impelled or compelled duties, but he's doing everything. So how does he do it? Parasya shaktir vividaiva shruyate. He has unlimited varieties of potencies, and through them, everything is being accomplished. Accomplished how? Swabhaviki, jnana, bala, kriyacha. Swabhaviki, it's being performed by his own matchittasva, by his own pure spiritual nature, which is complete in all knowledge, in all strength, and in all performance of all activities. So this is a brief answer, synopsis of the answer to Vidura's question. Prabhupada develops it more, some of these same ideas, in today's purport, and we'll see he expands on it more and more over the upcoming verses. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, everybody, for your very kind attention. If there's any questions or comments, we can discuss now. Anything? Question, comment? Going once, going twice, sold. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Oh, yes, go ahead, please.
Very nice class. And I like the one point very much that you said, number one quality of devotee is Bhagavat Pradhana.
Yes.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that word also caught my attention when I was reading ahead.
Krishna, thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Anything else? Everybody staying warm in Philadelphia?
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for
Thank
the
you.
nice class and lot of Maitreya Muni explanation for Maitreya Muni, everything that is very good, elaborately said.
Yeah, for some reason I felt like showing a little love to Maitreya Muni.
No, it's very good, bro. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for your very kind attention. I hope everyone's doing well. Everyone have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Acharya. Hare Krishna. Thanks so much.